My next guest is a Super Bowl champion, a former NFL offensive lineman, an author, a radio analyst, and according to his Twitter, a surfer. Is that true? Ladies and
Hey,
gentlemen, Ryan Harris. Ryan, how's everything going for you?
hang 10, brother. I'm going to hit the surf in the first week of June. Things are going good. Zach, good to be with you, brother.
Cool. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. How's your offseason going so far? No football, but we got some basketball still going on, playoffs coming up. What have been your thoughts on the draft and free agency as a whole?
Yeah, the draft was fun to watch, fun to see players in person, get that call. A little less of the drunk uncles in the videos, than 2 years ago. Not enough phone snatching for me, but, some teams making strong statements. I think Jacksonville had a good draft. I thought the Jets had a good draft, Detroit, and I really thought the Denver Broncos had an excellent draft as well.
What were your thoughts on the whole Aaron Rodgers drama storyline that were linking to the Broncos, basically the entire first day of the draft?
Well, I had sources that told me that the ask was for 3 first-round picks, and then I had some sources in Green Bay tell me that even if they got the picks, that they weren't ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers yet. So that actually might happen, though, after June 1st. One of the little things that's just out there doesn't mean a lot, but the fact that you can't customize a Denver Broncos number 12 Aaron Rodgers jersey is interesting on NFL.com.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Also, after the June 1st designation, some of that guaranteed money splits a little bit. But I'd expect to see Aaron Rodgers, if not this year, next year with the Denver Broncos after a lot of that guaranteed money falls off for the Packers.
Do you think that the Patrick Surtain pick was made for the Packers?
No, that Patrick Surtain pick was made for Vic Fangio. That was made to help the Broncos win this year. And when you have a struggling offense, the answer to keep it competitive is to build your defense. And Vic Fangio's only had Bradley Chubb and Von Miller on the same field for 4 games as he's been a head coach going into now his 3rd year as a Denver Broncos. So Denver Broncos head coach. So there are a lot of things, but I'll tell you something, Zach. Baron Browning, the linebacker out of Ohio State, drafted in the 3rd round. This kid could be a steal of the draft type player. He's incredibly talented. He wants to be known as a technician. And one of the things when you watch film, he can play all the positions. He can cover. He has tremendous speed and tackling ability. And because he was asked to do so much in Ohio State, I really think he's going to shine for the Broncos because he's going to be asked to do one thing. For the first time in his career in rookie camp, he played one position. And he said that lets him get down to the deep details of what makes that position great. So you put Patrick Surtain with Baron Browning. Those two are going to make a huge impact, not to mention later on, they got a corner from LSU who's won a national championship. So a lot of experience, couple of national champions. You could do a lot worse in 7 picks.
And so I want to ask you, so the most recent storyline that's been going on with the Denver Broncos is not a positive one. Right tackle Juwan James was practicing away from the facility, unfortunately had a severe injury, and it is now no longer with the team. Can you give your thoughts on that?
It's unfortunate. Juwan James, I thought was a hell of a player, before his really 2 injuries over the last 3 years with the Broncos. He opted out of his deal last year because he had the birth of his son. And so you respect those decisions made by players. But this was the risk all along of working out away from the facility. And the issue is going to be whether the Broncos and the NFLPA are going to have to pay some portion of that salary because, Juwan James is doing what the NFLPA advised. And do they have something to pay for that? In hindsight, the NFLPA should have provided insurance for all the players regarding their current contract and what they would make, telling players to stay home. And I'm not sure a decision's backfired on the NFLPA like this one in a long time because everyone, whether you're vaccinated or not, is trying to get, past this COVID and please get vaccinated, right? Yeah. But, you also see now that decision, hey, we don't want to come in because of COVID. Well, a lot of the country is opening up and a lot of the restrictions are being lifted. So it just doesn't have the same genuine feel in which anybody associated with the NFL and NFLPA knew this was a bargaining tactic in response to 17 games, setting the salary cap before signing a $111 billion television deal. Yeah. So this, these games of politics and different things have now costed players millions of dollars.
What did teams tell you? I know you played for a couple different teams when you were signing with them in terms of practicing and kind of like the details on if you're practicing away from the facility. Is this a standard thing or is this kind of just in between the lines that they kind of took advantage of?
Typically when if you get an injury when you're training away from the field, if you're doing it when there are no organized team activities, right? So if you're doing it in February and you get injured, typically teams are a lot more forgiving, right? Or if you're doing something in the offseason. But when you're supposed to be in the building and you're training somewhere else, well, that's where you really open yourself up to that clause in the contract that says, hey, we're doing organized team activities, you weren't there, so you were not taking part in the football activities, we don't have to pay you. And so that's where that kind of bridge starts changing. And look out for coaches to use this as an excuse if there's poor performance in the beginning of the season. Hey, we wish we could be better, but we had a lot of time taken from us in the beginning of the season because players didn't show up.
Do you think guys in the future will start putting clauses in their contract about avoiding this should it happen?
Teams won't allow that.
They won't
Teams
do
will
it?
not allow that because
Okay.
Zach, I mean, you forgot what you were like if you were given $1 million at 22. There are things that you have to protect yourself from if you're an organization, and teams will never allow a player to waive that. That's why players will continue to try and get guaranteed contracts.
Yeah.
One of the best things about Patrick Mahomes' contract, whether the $500 million is real or not, one of the pieces of his deal is that every year they have to agree to the guaranteed money 2 years out from his contract. So immediately when he signed it, I believe in 2021 or 2020, they already guaranteed his 22 salary, and then last year his 23 salary. So that's what you're going to see players do a lot more of, so that if there is an injury, that following season is guaranteed money.
What did you think of some of the guys in the draft, some of the offensive tackle and offensive lineman prospects? Any of the fits you liked?
I couldn't believe how low Slater went, and him going to the Los Angeles Chargers. I thought that was a great pick. And Quinn Miners here came to the Broncos. I like that pick. He trains with tree logs and different things like that. So you got to love a guy who can do those things. So, I mean, there are a couple of head scratchers, but overall, it's fun to see 3 linemen from the University of Notre Dame get drafted and continue our O-line youth tradition.
Are there any other Notre Dame guys outside of offensive linemen that you like the fits where they landed?
Well, I like Ian Book in New Orleans. I think that's a very interesting, draft pick. I think he'll be successful there. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at the Browns is going to make a good team great. He's a player that is as dynamic as you could find in college football. Won the Butkus Award for the best linebacker. So those 2 players, I think, will find success as well.
Have you seen any? I'm in DC. They got Samuel Cosme from Texas. Have you watched any of his tape at all?
I have not, but I'll tell you, Texas guys, and people give me flack for this all the time, but, Texas has had 5 great players in the history of its program. And it's not just me who believes this. I mean, this is a known kind of perception of Texas players, is that they never outperform their potential. And, there's something about them that when they leave 6th Street in Austin, they just don't find the same success in the NFL. So, it's tough, and I hope for the best for him, and he can overcome that. But Texas does not have a great track record in longevity and performance with NFL players outside of Earl Campbell, Jamal Williams, Bo Scaife, and a couple others.
Yeah, Colt McCoy. So I want to ask, so going back to
the fact that you'd say that proves everything I just said about Texas.
I mean, so Texas is not back in your opinion? Not back yet? Soon they'll be back.
Hey, I really want every young man to be successful in the NFL who gets drafted. But there's a perception that's proven true if you look at the history of Texas football. It's not like Notre Dame, who's got the record now for the most players drafted in college football program history. So,
I didn't know that. That's interesting. I didn't know that. And so going back to the Broncos, so Drew Lock, obviously his career hasn't really gotten off to the start he, I guess, envisioned. Are you expecting a monster season, or what do you think he's going to do?
Drew Lock got caught in the college mentality. He thought that he had time to develop, and he's realized now that's not true in the NFL. One of the things he said after last year, in which he almost threw as many touchdowns as interceptions, he said he was comfortable in the offense. That's not a thing you ever want to say out loud, and that's not even a mentality you want to have at all as an NFL player, of comfort. And he played like it. He didn't improve. He didn't listen to the coaching points week after week that he told us he was getting. And especially when you look at that second game last year against the Kansas City Chiefs, you throw 2 picks and you lose a game by 4 points, 22-6, or 6 points, 22-16. I mean, that's the game you're supposed to win to claim your spot in the NFL. He didn't do that, and Vic Fangio has already said that reps will be split 50-50 between him and Teddy Bridgewater. And now I believe Drew Lock will really understand what competition is in the NFL, unfortunately, for the first time in his NFL career.
And I wanted to ask you before I let you go. Obviously, some of the biggest news in the past couple of weeks. Tim Tebow's on the verge of potentially landing on the Jags roster. What are your thoughts on his hiatus and his chances of making a team?
I love Tim Tebow. I played with him. There's not a more dynamic, exciting player to be in the huddle with. And the best thing that I tell people about Tim Tebow is he is who he says he is. He is genuine. He really does back up his personal life with what you see in public. And I'm thrilled for Tim Tebow that he's gotten an opportunity to pair up with his college coach and really to take a lot of pressure off of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you've heard more about Tim Tebow in baseball than you have Trevor Lawrence in rookie minicamp. So, I mean, that's the effect that Tim Tebow has. I will also point out the incredible inconsistencies we have as sports fans to where we are all excited, myself included, for Tim Tebow to get a shot at playing a position he's never played in high school, college, or the NFL. And yet, when I say the same things, 4 or 5 years ago about another player who was out of the NFL wanting to play the position that he played and was successful in and played a Super Bowl in, for some reason we can't allow that. It takes nothing from our personal lives to encourage and be happy for someone's opportunities. We need to be more consistent as sports fans in doing that, no matter what the player's beliefs or actions are, provided that they are legal.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw that wild story about the guy who's trying out for the Falcons yesterday. Did you see hear about
Oh
that?
yeah. I saw a little bit of it.
Who does that? Apparently,
Yeah.
somebody with an Atlanta area code reached out to the guy and pretended to be the defensive coordinator, and he got there like we know who you are. Apparently,
Yeah.
he is getting a shot somewhere. So, but that like it's incredible.
Yeah, I
And
don't know why we'd be against opportunity for
no,
anybody.
no.
Again, provided that their actions have been all legal and
Yeah.
and have not hurt anybody.
Yeah, before I let you get to one last question, do you have any bold predictions for this upcoming season, or guys you think might take the next step?
I think the Steelers are going to win the AFC. I really think when you add Najee Harris to the Steelers, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of Ben Roethlisberger. Juju Smith-Schuster staying is going to be great, and of course, Chase Claypool, Notre Dame graduate, is going to continue to grind and rise as Notre Dame athletes do in the NFL.
Awesome. Well, always a pleasure having you on. How can people find you on social media and keep up with you and everything you got going on?
Yeah, search me Ryan Harris on Twitter, Instagram at Ryan Harris_68, or check out my website, RyanHarris68.com.
Awesome, man. Well, always a pleasure. Do appreciate it. Can't wait until the season starts up. We got training camp coming up in a month and a half, so can't wait. And it's always a pleasure. Do appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach.